It's Friday. How is everybody doing? My name is Stuart Davis. I am your host of this channel and your host on this live stream tonight. I am a flawed man of God. This is my creation here that I have put together for us to gather as people of the faith, as people who are perhaps well versed in it, very mature in it. So, not me, uh, very mature in it, folks that are knowledgeable, and those of us who might just be a little bit curious. Maybe you are somebody who is new to the faith or interested in the faith, and you're just dipping your toes in, and you want to learn more. Look, I'm going to be very upfront with you. I'm not an expert, not a pastor, not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. All right. What I am is a Christian who's been one my entire life. So I can give you 40 years of experience of growing up in the church. Um, but that's not really what the point of uh, this channel is. What this channel is just gathering to talk about faith, right? It's a good place where you can voice questions, frustrations, and a great number of things, especially with what we're doing right now. So the project we're in here, we've been doing for several years now, and we've been reading through the Bible a couple chapters a night, um, going right in order from Genesis to Revelation. And tonight we're starting on a new book. We're in the midst of the minor prophets of the Old Testament. So we've gotten a pretty good ways along. We're going to start Micah tonight, and love to have you along, right? And get your impressions and thoughts as we read through it on whatever it is that pops into your head, or that you want to mention that we're reading about. And I say you, and I give you the chance, and I say you can talk about it because this is a very small stream, right? It's very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school, right? Um, the good news behind that is you have the opportunity to make your voice heard. You can participate in the chat, and if you put anything in there, I promise to read it and respond to it. Right? Your input and your participation makes the show better, right? It's more than me just running my mouth for the approximate hour that this that we do this live stream. So, but I am looking forward to your comments. And like I said, the invitation is open and the encouragement is there, and I want you to be part of that. Now, it's quiet right now. Generally have a couple of folks in here at the time that I could point you to, but that's just it's just you and me then if you go in there right now. But generally, we've got a couple of folks in there. We'd love to have you join the small community, and like I said, participate how you wish, right? So, getting into Micah tonight, and yeah, let's get the show rolling. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying Friday, right? You're looking forward to a weekend with some rest, right? Weekend away from work. Hopefully, some of you guys work on the weekends, but it's a little bit quiet here right now. Lights are down a little bit lower. One of my kids not feeling well, and she came home, gave her some medicine. She came up here and promptly passed out on the futon. So we were going to settle down and watch a couple episodes of a TV show that we've been watching together, but not doing that right now. So I sat down, walked away from the computer a little bit, watching they got some MASH on in the background. If any of you guys are old enough or cultured enough to have seen that show, So, so it's going to be pretty quiet Friday for us. She'll get better. Um, and yeah, week's been pretty good. Looking forward to school starting just around the corner, and that means soccer for the oldest, and just looking forward to each day as it comes, and what God has in store for me. Hopefully for you, uh, your life is overflowing with blessing, right? And just as important that if you are um, enjoying what God has blessed you with, that you are properly thankful for it, right? Just make sure to thank God for all the things that we have that are great for us. So, going on, Matt. Happy Friday to you as well, sir. You weren't in the chat. We had a newcomer to the chat Wednesday, so looking to see the next time she joins in. Always glad to see a new face in the chat as much as I like seeing the old faces as well. Not saying you're old, Matt. Been around a while. So, all right. So we're gonna get into Micah tonight. All right. And with Micah, Old Testament, we got a little bit of a introduction for him. Caught the replay. Good. Look, replay. That was a good episode. Normal. I just like it when the text really rolls well. I just some episodes are just I just come away a little bit more peppy after it than others, and that was definitely one of them. But Micah tonight we rolled out of Jonah. Jonah's great. It's 4 chapters. It's really hard, quick and hard hitting, but I think it makes a really succinct point, and it does it very well if you're looking at it with a level of humility and objectivity. Matt said, "My men's group, we all saw Young Washington last night. Pretty good. Okay, good. I've seen the previews for it. Always kind of interested to see how some of these older or some of these biopics come together, and probably watch that with my son at some point when it's available for streaming. It might already be. Just haven't noticed it. What did we watch the other day? Watched Constantine, and that was pretty heavy for him. But we followed it up with something a little bit lighthearted, like McHale's Navy, and he got a little bit of an enjoyment out of that. But good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and that seems like a really cool outing for the men's group. So get some good fellowship in there. All right. So anyway, so we wrap up with Jonah. Okay. And we're getting into Micah, 8th century BC. In Judah. When we look at him on the Bible timeline, where do we see Micah? Okay. Towards the center, back end of the center, right? So closer to the exile side than the beginning, but still kind of in the middle there. Where is the oh, that's right. Active during the reigns of kings Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. That's a good one, Hezekiah. He was contemporary of Isaiah, Amos, and Hosea. So interesting if these guys ever knew each other, right? I mean, Israel's big, but it's not that big. So you'd think that these guys would have some sort of communication or interaction, right? And then they don't line up exactly, I'm sure, but it'd be interesting to see if there was any communication and what that was like. Kind of the questions that you want to ask, or find the answer to when you get to heaven. I am the most curious person when it comes to just wanting to see so many things that happened and see how they happened versus how we're told they're happened versus what's in my imagination of what's happened, how I visualize what I was told that was told about this historical event, right? Um, so it's like, we were talking about biopics. Patton is a favorite of mine, and I wonder how different the real Patton was to George C. Scott's uh, characterization of him, because it certainly is an enjoyable movie. Um, but yeah, that's one of the things I'd like to know. It's like, man, how did the interactions with some of these prophets go on? Because he's right in there, kind of in that time period for Isaiah and uh, Isaiah, Hosea, and I think, did they say Amos? Yeah, Amos. Which are all kind of sandwiched in there when they were written, not necessarily when their lives were. We're gonna get Micah's gonna have a really good uh, messianic prophecy that we can tie into Christ, and it's I think it's going to be a lot like Jonah, in that it can be very short and to the point, and tie in a lot of broad principles of being a godly person, or seeking righteousness is all about. So we're going to start with that presently. Links in the description. We're using the Amplified Translation. ESV's on the right. If we need to look to the other side and kind of cross reference, but that's usually what we roll with. And Matt said, like a truer version of the Patriot would be my characterization. Okay. I like the Patriot. Probably didn't. How big was the budget compared to that Mel Gibson classic? But yeah, I like it when it's not as over the top a lot of times. All right, Micah 1. Destruction in Israel and Judah. Well, gets right down to it, just like the other prophets. Let's get right into it. What's happening? What's happening? Yeah, it's a funny thing, because and maybe this is a little bit of Jonah's problem. God was sending him out to some place where he didn't have his contemporaries around there, right? He was going to be the only guy on the streets talking about doom on behalf of God, or at least it seems that way. Whereas it is a constant and consistent alarm going off in Israel and Judah. God sending prophets. Stop the madness. Stop the sin. Stop the reprobate behavior that you guys have gotten yourselves involved in. You guys love the sin. I'd love for you to just knock it off. You're becoming a promised land in name only, because you haven't kept up your end of the covenant by any means. And it's not the fact that, hey, we're struggling to maintain. It's that you act like you don't care to begin with. And that certainly wasn't true for everybody, but man, was that the society. And oh man, can we relate to that these days? All right, the destruction in Israel and Judah, just like we've seen with so many other the prophets before. The word of the Lord that came to Micah of Moresheth in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw through divine revelation concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. So, Samaria, Israel, Judah, or Jerusalem, Judah. All right, the two capitals. Hear, O peoples, all of you, listen closely, O earth, and all that is in it. and let the Lord God be witness, giving a testimony of the judgment against you. The Lord from his humble, or the Lord from his holy temple in the heavens. Yeah, definitely not humble. The Lord from his holy temple in the heavens. For behold, the Lord is coming down from his place. He shall come down and tread in judgment on the high places of the earth. The mountains shall melt under him, and the valleys shall be split, like wax before the fire, like waters poured down a steep place. All this because of the rebellion and apostasy of Jacob, and for the sins of the house of Israel, the northern kingdom. What is the rebellion and apostasy of Jacob? Is it not the abandonment of God in order to worship the idols of Samaria? What are the high places of idolatry in Judah, the southern kingdom? Are they not Jerusalem, the capital and center of corruption? Therefore, I, the Lord, shall make Samaria a heap of ruins and of stones and arable land in the open country, a place for planting vineyards. And I will pour her stones down into the ravine and lay bare her foundations. All her idols shall be broken in pieces. All her earrings from her idolatry shall be burned with fire. And all her images I shall make desolate. For from the earnings of a prostitute she collected them, and to the earnings of a prostitute they shall return. So we're going to break that part up. This is actually has a decent length to it. But again, a lot of this stuff, we've heard this stuff before, right? A little bit more imagery here when it talks about God coming down, right? The mountains shall melt under him, and the valleys shall be split. I mean, you think of this monstrous being coming down and manifesting in some way. Probably easiest way for us to think about is him just a giant God coming down and stepping on mountains, and they just melt like he was stepping on, cake or something like that. Just stepping through that, and he's not happy. And he's not happy for exactly the things that Micah's talking about, that Isaiah's talked about, that Jeremiah will talk about late after Micah comes along. All the things that all the prophets and before them, so many of the leaders like David, Solomon, Moses, called them to take heed of, right? Pay attention. There are requirements, right? And faith is a big one. And all these people have done since they settled in the promised land, it seems, is make and worship idols. They were doing it during the Exodus, right? Of all things, right? While in the midst of all these wonders that God is doing for them and delivering them into the promised land, there seems to be not an ounce of gratitude for so much of that culture. And, I get the idea that you can never properly thank somebody for creating you, right? But also blessing you in the way that he did bless the Israelites and that they should have been thankful for. But it's just the total ignoring of him. God created this entire world to operate with certain conditions, right? And those conditions are set are if they're met, will set you up for success, right? And it's not necessarily for the individual, though oftentimes it will apply to the individual. I'm not talking about prosperity gospel. I'm just talking about living a life of goodness and righteousness, and having that be a little bit of its own reward to a degree, right? How you should feel about doing the right thing. And these folks seemingly aren't interested in any of it. Because the number one rule is God is God, and you are not to have any other gods or idols or any of the stupid things that the Israelites decide to partake in. It's all bad. It's the number one rule. And it's the one that seemingly they break more than anybody because the neighbors have a cool god and they have less rules. They've got way more rituals. They that there's more edge to it where they talk about let's call it the human sacrifice. There's fertility worship, right? And there's all that kind of stuff that you're not doing with God because this is meant to be taken seriously. This is not faith to be taken to pursue your own pleasure in things that are considered taboo or wrong outright. The Israelites, being the stiff-necked and stubborn people that they are, don't like being told what to do in this case. And what we see them do, they go and do their own thing. And they continue to do it from generation to generation with some punishments until finally exiles them and he's had enough. And that's what we hear Isaiah talking about. That's what we see Jeremiah talking about. That's what we see Ezekiel talking about and Amos and all these other, well, maybe not Amos as much. Amos was talking more about the Edomites, but all these prophets, major and minor, talking about stop. Just stop, you big dummy, and listen. Listen to what you're supposed to do. Heed that and see how that works out for you. But they don't want to do that. They can't tell him nothing. And so he's ticked off. And you're not going to be able to run from him. And he says that very clear. You're not going to be able to run from me. And so when he comes down, he asks some pretty rhetorical questions, right? Because he mentions the rebellion and apostasy of Jacob. He's not talking about Jacob specifically. He's talking about the nation of Israel and the tribes that came from Jacob. He goes, the rebellion and apostasy of Jacob. You ask how you do this? He goes, all you do is worship other idols and gods. You just do that. You can't help yourself. Don't know why. Because of that, I'm going to leave your city as a heap of ruins. It's going to be wilderness and farmland, right? It's going to be a place for growing crops, not growing blasphemy and apostasy. And then we get more of the prostitution imagery here that we've seen in other places like Daniel. See it in Daniel? Can't remember. Oh, Hosea. Hosea's the one. Yeah. And from the earnings of a prostitute she collected them, and to the earnings of a prostitute they shall return. All right, moving on to the next section. Because of this, I, Micah, must lament and mourn over with expressions of grief and wail, must go barefoot and naked without outer garments as if robbed. I must wail like the jackals and lament with a loud, mournful cry like the ostriches. I don't know how ostriches lament. For Samaria's wound is incurable, for it has come to Judah. The enemy has reached the gate of my people, even to Jerusalem. Announce it not in Gath and Philistia. Weep not at all, and in this way betray your grief to Gentiles. In Beth Ephra, house of dust, roll in the dust among your own people. Go on your way into exile, stripped of beauty, disarmed, inhabitants of Shaphir, beautiful in shameful nakedness. The inhabitants of Zaan does not go out of the house. The wailing of Beth Ezel, the house of removal, will take away from you its support. For the inhabitant of Marath, bitterness writhes in pain at its losses, and waits anxiously for good, because a catastrophe has come down from the Lord to the gate of Jerusalem. Harness the chariot to the team of horses to escape the invasion. O inhabitant of Lachish, she was the beginning of sin. To the daughter of Zion, Jerusalem, because in you were found the rebellious acts of Israel. Therefore, You will give parting gifts on behalf of Moresheth Gath, Micah's home. The houses of Achzib, place of deceit, will become a deception to the kings of Israel. Moreover, I will bring on to you the one who takes possession, O inhabitant of Mareshah, prominent place. The glory, nobility of Israel will enter Adullam, seeking refuge. Make yourself bald in mourning, shave off your hair for the children of make yourself bald in mourning, shave off your hair, for the children of your delight remain as bald as an eagle. For your children will be taken from you into exile. Didn't know Micah preached naked too. Well, I mean, hopefully there was some covering, but I guess in some way it's an act of humility, right? Um, but I think in when he's talking about it here, go on your way into exile, stripped of beauty, disarmed inhabitants of Shafir, in shameful nakedness. That's the part where I see where it's just talking about you've basically been stripped of all things that you could take pride in, that you have been taking pride in, right? Israel and Judah think of themselves as strong. They think of themselves as acutely uh, very significantly blessed by God, and that's true. But it's a one way. It really is so much a one way street, and they are taking as much advantage of that as possible, not knowing that that's testing the, or not caring. Probably was a little bit more not caring that it's testing the patience of God. God made an agreement with us, right? He's got that covenant. Well, yeah, y'all are part of that covenant too. There are things that you guys uh need to uphold. And I don't know if they go, well, as long as somebody's doing it, I don't have to do it, right? Um, and I'm sure things like that have passed your own mind. Um, when there's a collection of dues or money or something like that, sometimes for a good cause, sometimes for something minor or insignificant. But you might say, I'm going to let somebody else handle that. Israel and Judah so often, especially Israel, goes, yeah, somebody will take care of us. The problem is Israel did a pretty good job kicking out holy people from its borders under Jeroboam or one of his successors. And so many of the people who were diligent and faithful to God went to Judah. So what ends up happening is they were full of a bunch of malcontents and leeches and folks who just went through the motions to put on airs and put on appearances. They're all fooling themselves, perhaps, but of course we know, and they should know, you're not fooling God. Enough of those warnings have come out. You got to knock it off. But again, they have convinced themselves that there is nothing that God is going to do to truly punish them, and that God is not going to take away his protection of them. And some of them probably thought that they didn't need it. I'm sure that a big problem between both Israel and Judah is that they thought that they were responsible for their success and nobody else. And they wouldn't get credit, and they didn't want to share their success with their community. They would rather expound upon it with acts of fraud and extortion and oppression. And it's again goes directly in conflict with what God tells us to do. But they don't care because they can get away with it. Well, not long, right? And that's what Micah is saying. He said, "For Samaria's wound is incurable." They really have just become rotten to the core. And that behavior is influencing Judah. And Micah's making that observation. All that godlessness going on in Israel is influencing Judah. And we know how easily swayed The Israelites are when they are presented with a um when they are presented with an opportunity to go astray, right? And do something they want to do. Let's do it, right? That's how they act. And so, yeah, Israel's sinning was contagious, and Micah's understanding that Judah's going to fall right down along with it. What's going on, King? What's going on, sir? Yeah, I'm glad you made it. Yeah, Matt. Yeah, I meant Forrest himself before that. Oh, in verse 8. Go back to verse 8 real quick. Without outer garments, as if robbed. So maybe in his underpants, maybe completely naked, as you know, what I don't know. Wasn't there. Um Probably easier for people to listen and pay attention when they're not being distracted by all the floppy bits going on when you're not wearing your clothes, right? But this is very um similar to things that we've read before, right? And I'm wrapping it up kind of in that way. Um, but it's interesting, a little bit different than some places. A lot, or with a lot of prophets, some of them mention mostly the nations, right? Here we're seeing actual cities and towns. Gath, right? Bethlehem, Ephra, Zaan, Beth Ezel, Marath, right? We're seeing these places mentioned. Well, not Marath, Marishah, right? We're seeing that stuff mentioned, but it's all coming down to the same conclusion. Stop it, right? And reset yourself, or else you're going to be destroyed. And again, Micah makes the distinction. Samaria specifically, but Israel is lost. And it is a sad point to reach for him and for many of the other, or if not all of the other prophets, when they think about that. How far have they fallen from a nation united that was in a location that was chosen by God and populated by people chosen by God to live there, in a covenant that at the time was exclusive to them? All the things that could have been, but we didn't live up to it because we are prideful, we are arrogant, we are prone to temptation. Where everybody's looking for the path of least resistance. And it's one of the things that Satan will always tempt you with, is the idea that there's a path of least resistance. All you got to do is follow him. Now, how does that work for so many people? And at the end, he reminds them, and I think this is more talking about, when he's talking about children, I think he's talking about generations from then, when the exile does happen and they are conquered. Make yourself bald in mourning, shave off your hair, for the children of your delight remain as bald as an eagle, for your children will be taken from you into exile. Right? It's sad. It's sad, but it's also sad that it's come to this, and it's not any fault of God's. It's our own fault. It's our own actions. And so many people have a tough time wrapping their head around it, that they can be the sole cause of a problem, whether it's the Israelites reflecting on how they handled their quest, or their covenant with God and what God had tasked them with, just simple day-to-day behavior. But everybody hates the rules. Everybody wants to do their own thing. One of the footnotes here: Omri, king of Israel in the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes purchased the hill on which he built Samaria, his capital city, for 2 talents of silver. It served both as a center for the worship of idols and as the capital of Israel until it was captured by Sargon, king of Assyria. The victory marked the end of the kingdom of the 10 tribes. But that's what God said was going to happen, and not here, right? King with me, every Old Testament believer, we have the Holy Spirit, and I have no problem doing something that would be considered wild and putting my faith into God to work it out because I did the right thing. The guy who that behavior reminds me of the most is John the Baptist, right? And I know we haven't gotten to that part yet. We're still in the Old Testament. We're getting close, but John the Baptist, he just seemed like he was in that line with maybe David, right? As opposed to somebody like Moses, a little bit more tenuous, right? Abraham, who's a little bit more fearful but obedient. John the Baptist or David are those ones where God's like, "Hey, I got something I need you to do, and it's something crazy." And they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. I'm doing it right now. Let's do it. Let's do it. It's for God. It's for you." And that's truly something admirable, because like I said, that kind of faith, um, that kind of faith is something that I think did set people like David aside, because they were willing to do that. King said, "Hello, I just quit a local trucking company that was stopping my clock and stealing hours from me. 14 drivers left after I spoke up. Hey, look, that's what I tell you, man, guys. I don't know if you're doing short haul or, um, doing some real over the road trucking or what, but you've got that CDL, man. It's it's uh it's in demand. It's in demand. Um, one of the things I miss during my time working propane delivery was I felt like that was a great gig, um, that a lot of folks didn't appreciate. Though at the same time, the pay wasn't as good as it should have been. Pay wasn't as good as it should have been. But the job pretty fun. I mean, you're home you can rake in the overtime when it's in the winter, but you know, getting sidetracked. Never is. Oh, well, I don't know. You work for UPS. I can see that if somebody works for UPS, there's a couple of good company lines out there. Walmart, I think, is a pretty good company to be a driver for. I remember talking with guys who worked for Werner, seemed to be happy. USA seemed to have their act together. But that was whew, 7 years ago. Yeah, well, I mean, you considered being an owner operator? That's got its I know that's got its risks as well. Never in a day. All right. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 of Micah. Woe to oppressors. Woe, judgment is coming to those who devise wickedness and plot evil on their beds. When morning comes, they practice evil because it is in the power of their hands. They covet fields and seize them, and houses and take them away. They oppress and rob a man and his house, and a man and his inheritance. You see a lot of that, and this is a big problem within Israel and Judah at the time, is the exploitation of people of their neighbors, right? The greed, the desire for more things, or the jealousy that other people have stuff, just drives them to take advantage of their neighbor. The whole community is supposed to set up to support each other. If you're stabbing each other in the backs, you're in essence shooting yourself in the leg, right? You're never going to be successful that way. You individually might get ahead, but at what cost, right? But it's all the short-sightedness. It's all the immediate that's all the immediate greed and the instant gratification of I want the things, and now let's take advantage, and let's, again, just like Ahab's a great example when we're talking about Ahab's a great example when they're talking about oppressors coveting fields and seizing them, right? Houses taken away, doesn't matter, right? He would go out and do that. He was not the only one. And it's something that God calls out through his prophets several times. We've heard of it. You're not looking out for those less fortunate. You're looking out for an opportunity to exploit somebody. Sounds similar to the evil bed plotting psalm. I mean, going on around it's being written around the same time, right? And and that kind of stuff is going to pop up. It's going to pop up when you see that behavior going around all the time. People are going to, make commentary on it. And this is, again, stuff that God has explicitly told us against. It falls under the loving your neighbor, right? Love God and follow his commandments, but loving your neighbor and not trying to ruin them and step on them on your way to the next rung of the financial or social ladder that you're climbing. Therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, I am planning against this family a disaster, exile, like a noose from which you cannot remove your necks, nor will you be able to walk haughtily and erect, for it will be an evil time of subjugation to the invaders. On that day, they shall take up a daunting, deriding parable against you, a wail and a doleful and bitter song of mourning, and say, we are completely destroyed. God exchanges the inheritance of my people, how he removes it from me. He divides our fields to rebellious, our captors. Therefore, you will have no one stretching a measuring line, dividing the common land for you by lot in the assembly of the Lord. Do not speak out. So they speak out. But if they do not speak out concerning these things, reproaches will not be turned back. Is it being said, O house of Jacob, is the spirit of the Lord impatient? Or are these prophesied judgment his doings? Do not my words do good to the one walking uprightly? But lately my people have stood up as an enemy and have made me their antagonist. Stripped the ornaments off the garment of those unsuspecting passers-by, like those returned from war. You evict the women, widows of my people, each one from her pleasant house, from her young fatherless children. You take away my splendor and blessing forever by putting them among the pagans away from me. Arise and depart, because the captivity is inevitable, for this land is not the place of rest, because of the defilement that brings destruction, a painful and terrible destruction. If a man walking in a false spirit, spouting deception, should lie and say, I will prophesy to you, O Israel, of wine and liquor, greed and sensual pleasure, he would be the acceptable spokesman of this people. This God, I mean, this is God saying, it's like, y'all are not trustworthy anymore, right? You've lost, there is no cultural or societal trust anymore. And now you have people feeling insecure in God's promised land. You've done that. You've been a part of that. Y'all created that culture. That's what God's saying. By the way you've treated your neighbor now, We have people who exist in this place that I've made for you who are set up for failure. And he mentions specifically fatherless children. You're exploiting kids who don't have a dad, right? And the widows. Women don't work. Not doing work they're supposed to be doing in this day. They are incredibly dependent on what their husband provides, what their family provides. And when they lose that, they're in dire straits. But they shouldn't be, because the community should be coming together and supporting those folks. Right? Helping to lighten the load. But that's not what they do. It's not my problem. I don't want to spend my money or my capital or my attention or my resources, my time helping that person out. I've got my own problems to deal with. And do you really have those problems? And maybe you guys have said this to yourselves. I know I've I've been mad at myself for making these same excuses at times. Not to enrich myself off of their misfortune, but an unwillingness to go help, right? And I should. God has given me so much. Who am I to hold on to and not pay it forward to my fellow man? That's part of the entire purpose of us as a community of Christians together, is to worship God together, help each other through life, support each other in the highs and the lows, and just be company, I guess, through the monotony of the day-to-day. Israel's bored for some reason, and so they choose not to do that. And now they're greedy. Usury is the U word that pops up often. And certainly we're not innocent of that. Our banks most certainly will hold you in debt. Banks do not practice the Old Testament laws. I shall most certainly assemble all of you, O Jacob. I shall surely gather the remnant of Israel. I shall bring them together like sheep in the fold, multiplying the nation like a flock in the midst of its pasture. The place will swarm with many people and hum loudly with noise. Jubilee. Thank you, Matt. The breaker, the Messiah, who opens the way, shall go up before them, liberating them. They will break out, pass through the gate, and go out. So their king goes on before them, the Lord at their head. To me, that sounds like the explosion of Christianity, right? The Lord at the head, the Lord guiding the early Christians, not just as Christianity spread in the Roman Empire, but how it spread into Europe and Africa and the Middle East, and then furthermore through Asia. Certain places of Asia, it picked up North and South America big time, right? Huge bastions of different flavors of Christianity versus evangelicals and Catholics and high church Protestants, that kind of stuff. There's a great collection of us. Of course, the unfortunate part is we're making the same mistakes that these folks did, that the Israelites did. They're taking God away from the credit and the center of our society. It's been like that for several decades now in America, and look at what we have to show for that. we're not a just society. We're not a righteous society. Sure, there certainly are just and righteous people within it, but we are a nation of people who just want to get their way, whether it's good or bad, and we do prey upon those less fortunate than us. Right? There are those of us who do that. We do get lost in our own little world, thinking that that's all that matters. But there was a time, and there's still time to come where we will see the resurgence of the faith. But right now, the important thing is just try to do it right as best you can, right? So, but that's what Micah's saying here. I'm going to gather you together, and the place will swarm with many people and hum loudly with noise. It does, like I said, it just sounds like Christianity. Does sound like Christianity there. And he is a prophet, and it does happen. And God is at the head, right? Leading that explosion of Christianity. Footnote here is the prophets repeatedly revealed the full extent of God's coming judgment and salvation. God would punish his rebellious people, but would afterward redeem them. Israel would be sent into exile, but a remnant of the people would return. The Messiah, the one who breaks open the way, shall lead them back and shall restore the kingdom of David. Yes, Pentecost. All right. That's our reading for tonight. Hey, we're close to an hour, right? Thank you. King, glad to see you. Matt, King, look, dude, if you ever do go owner operator, dude, I wish you the best of luck. And if you've got the hustle in you and you got a little bit of blessing from the Lord to keep your deep deaf system from breaking down on you in particular, there's a lot of money and success to be made. Right? Neo's here. What's going on, buddy? Look, Neo shows up when I'm getting ready to do the shout out. Neo's here. What's going on, my friend? Glad to see you. But Neo's showing up, but it's King and Matt as well. I love seeing you guys hanging out with me on this Friday, and hopefully y'all got something nice planned for the weekend, whether it's something exciting, whether it's something not exciting at all and just want to rest. I want you guys to be safe, right? Be safe, be productive, get some rest, have some fun, unwind a little bit, go to church, right? That's all what I want for you guys in the chat, for you guys who are listening as well and not in the chat. Look, I love you guys just as much, but I want to hear from you too. So just remember that you have that open invitation and that encouragement from me that I want to hear from you. Okay, I understand you might not be able to. I understand you might not want to. But I am glad that you're here, tuning in and night out, because you get something good out of this. So head back. Always get on YouTube as I'm ending the stream. Well, it's one of the difficulties, I guess, on being on the East Coast. And Neo, I don't know where you're at, but the schedule's aligning. But hey, you can catch me on replay, Neo. Like I said, don't be sad. I'm happy to see you out there. I'm happy to see you in the chat. So, and the replay crew, right? Leave a comment. Let me know you were here. Let me know you passed by. Because I'm happy. I'm thankful for your viewership. I'm glad you came. You stopped by the watch. I'm sorry I missed you, and I hope to catch you live sometime soon. You're going to see me start scheduling these episodes out earlier. I don't know how. I'm going to be scheduling them in StreamYards, ahead of time. I don't know how that's going to convert to YouTube and how that's going to affect the notifications. By all means, guys, let me know when y'all start getting notifications, because I'd like to make sure. I don't always know how the notifications look at for you guys coming out. I know many of y'all have come by and said y'all get the notice midstream, right? But I always love seeing you guys stop by, and going to do what I can to improve some things and make sure that we kind of understand what the schedule is moving forward. Anyway, so with that said, guys, like I said, be safe. Have a good weekend. Go to church. Be thankful. Be thankful for the things that God gave you. Worship Him as the Almighty that He is, right? Obey, believe, love, help each other out, guys. Everybody have a good night, and God bless.